it's heartbreaking to watch men feel like I have to put on this mask because the mask is what I need to keep to survive.
Yeah. So what do you think it means to be a good man?
Hey, everybody. My name is Jonathan Harris. I am an award winning author. I am a speaker, success coach. And this year, I'm so excited because I'm competing in the first ever Mr. US United men's pageant. So I currently hold the title of the inaugural Mr. Maryland US United. And overall, I'm just a person who wants to see every space he enters be better, whether that be through time, whether it be through service, whether it be through giving, or however I can do that.
Amazing. Okay, so I mean, this is so interesting. I think I might just skip my normal questions. You got to tell me more about the pageantry. How did you get into it? How did you hear about it? Is it the first time ever that it's been held? What's? I would love to hear more about that.
Sure. So this is by far one of the best experiences that I have had in my life. So to give you a little bit of context, this is the first time I am ever doing a pageant. This specific pageant, which is the Mr. US United, is brand new. The organization, which is the US United pageant, has been around for 20 years. And traditionally, as people know, pageants have been more so heavily dominated by females. So there has been a Miss US United for the last 20 years, but the organization has decided to add a Mr. component for the men. I have wanted to do something for quite some time that is competitive, not specifically a pageant, but just something to apply to. So the reason I'm saying that is because in 2019, I started a health journey where I lost over 100 pounds.
Wow.
And so, yes, thank you. At my heaviest, I was 340. I'm now in the 220s. And this was at this point 3 years ago, April 23rd, 3 years. And I've been kind of asking myself, like, now what? Okay, so being heavier, there were certain things that I just wanted for my life that I felt like weight was a barrier to. And now that I wear large, I can shop anywhere I want. I'm like, what happens next? So similarly, when Superman defeats his greatest rival, what does tomorrow look like for him? Uh, um, that's the question that I had to ask myself, is that now that you have lost the weight, what do you apply this to? So I'm working on a book. I want to talk about that in a writing context, because I'm also an author. But I said, I'm a competitor at heart. I love to, just be around progressive minded people. So I had two options. I was like, okay, sports would be cool, but I'm not trying to do the whole torn ACL, MCL thing. Those sports injuries are no joke. Shout out to all the athletes. But then I thought about pageantry, and I love to talk. If you haven't noticed, I love community service. And overall, I love standing on platforms of things even bigger than me. And when you put all that together, you get a pageant. Cool enough for my professional work, I am a success coach at the first degree granting HBCU, Lincoln University. And we have a Mr. and Miss Lincoln University. Most colleges do have that for HBCUs, which stand for historically Black colleges. So I've been around pageants. I've been a judge, just kind of being asked as an employee. I've had mentees who've applied. So I've kind of helped with my writing hat, but I've never actually done one myself. So that's how I landed here.
So cool. I mean, thank you. Thanks for sharing all that. I'm curious, and so now I will weave in the masculinity component
Mhm.
on, and maybe it's two different dimensions. I'm so curious how maybe your perspective on masculinity has influenced your pursuit, both in your weight loss journey and in the pursuit of like competition in the pageant space. Does it affect those two pursuits? How has it influenced your journey in those spaces?
Oh, absolutely. I guess I'll start with the pageant, and I'd love to talk about the weight loss part with it too. It's
Sure.
been really interesting. I think I'll say this. I wasn't sure what to expect based on the fact that pageants are generally dominated by women. It's a very female heavy industry. I wasn't sure what my interactions were going to look like with other men when I told them that I was doing a pageant. But I can tell you the support has been really beautiful, from guys. I've had so many guys coming up to me saying, "That's so cool. You're the only person I know who's a male who's actually doing this." So it's cool to kind of open a new door for people and let them know that that possibility is out there. Every now and again, I do run into people who really don't understand it and all that it is. So they're like, "So is this like a beauty contest? Is this a this? Is it that?" So there's still some doors you kind of have to break down there. But overall, for my students have been extremely excited for me, and they feel more likely to go after goals now. So that's been pretty cool to watch. For my line
Mm-hmm.
of work, I specifically work with young men. So a lot of them do follow me on social media, and they kind of see this behind the scenes journey. So um, masculinity has really played a role. In fact, that is what my platform is. It is a second look at our mentality, where I want to really redesign how the world views men. So I have three pillars. I have Reunite, which deals with bringing us back together, giving us more spaces where we can talk and we can just fellowship and connect and share. Relearn, which I think is the most important, which is reestablishing again just what it means to be a good person in society and how we unlearn some of those things that have maybe steered us away from that. And then lastly, recap. This one happens a lot. A lot of men I feel like do not get celebrated at all. There are some men who the first time in their life they are celebrated is their funeral. It's the first time they've heard people say nice things about them. It's the first time people have ever gathered in space specifically for them. A lot of times as men, our identity is you are a good man if you did a lot for others. So many of us are not giving ourselves the time to take care of ourselves. We're not practicing self care. We're not doing the things we need to do. That is why statistics show that unfortunately men take their lives at 3 to 4 times the rate as women do. That's why we see that our life expectancy is shorter and just a lot of these things. So, saying all that with the pageant, I'm hoping that by being the first ever Mr. US United, I can do intentional programming to help men be more comfortable being themselves. It's heartbreaking to watch men feel like I have to put on this mask because the mask is what I need to keep to survive. I can't let people know that I enjoy listening to a certain musician because I might be judged for that. I can't tell people that I need some time off for work for my mental health because I'll be called lazy, not a real man. And these societal norms are literally killing us. So I'm hoping that with my position and platform that I can let people know it's okay. And I'll be the example. Being a man who is 6'5", a black man on top of that, and competing in a national pageant is completely untraditional. I'll be honest. Let's address the elephant in the room. But one day somebody will look and say, if he could do it, I can do whatever my goal is, whether that is pageantry themselves or some other dream.
Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, it's like you said, it's so cool to be in a trailblazer position, and you've been so thoughtful with here's my platform and here's what I represent.
Thank
So
you.
it's so intentional and really speaking our language. I mean, like you said, there is so much need to kind of break down some of the rigid barriers that keep men trapped and in a
Yes.
struggling position. So I so appreciate your words, and also bringing the right language to it. It can also be challenging, and like getting the right words. And I love the way that you described the phenomenon of like one feeling trapped or unappreciated, and then
Mhm.
what it might take to transition to a healthier space. So it's so cool that to hear all of that
Thank
is
you.
really awesome. And then I guess, and so that was kind of the pageant journey. I'm also curious about your weight loss journey. Um, I guess on the dimensions of like motivations and health, and then also body image and masculinity. How did those factors play into your weight loss journey?
Oh yes, thank you for that. It's so real. But even when we talk about the masculinity part, it can be hard. Society has a certain look as to what a manly man looks like, what he sounds like, facial hair, all of that. So I know for me, growing up, having a lighter voice, growing up not having muscles, again, being over 300 pounds and these different things, there were plenty of times where I felt like my identity wasn't a man. By science, male, but by society standards, not a man's man. And that can be hard. It can be difficult in dating, not necessarily because someone else even feels that way, but you might perceive that, who you're interested in thinks of you that way. So that can really take a toll on your confidence, which it did for me. Motivation wise, the biggest thing that helped me stay focused is that I always think about the younger people in my life. I have mentees, I have nephews that are 10 and 12, and I always think about what they would describe me as, well, at my funeral. I'm sorry to be so grim, but when people talk about your life and different things like that, they're going to usually sum you up to a couple of words, despite all that you may have done in your life and your career. And what I wanted my nephews, I guess, impression of me to be is that my uncle was a person who went after the things that he wanted. He took care of himself. He was in a good headspace mentally. And I knew for me, getting my health in order was a big part of that. I aspire to be a husband and a father one day. And my goal is that when that time comes, my kids will meet me in a space where, again, physically and mentally, I am in a good space. I work with students every day. I listen to how my students describe their home lives. I would never want my children to say, and of course, as a parent, you're not going to cover everything. So I don't have that expectation, but I would never want my children to say, my definition of health came from my dad, just never putting himself first, never taking care of himself, never going for that walk, never eating correctly. And then they pick up on those habits. I would feel really bad to know that they learned that from me. So everything that I'm doing now and working to continue to do is to help them have a good future, and they're not even here yet.
So I mean, I love that like explanation of the motivation. I think it is so important to have those anchors around you to keep yourself accountable. Because if it's really just you in isolation, that motivation can slip away. But
Right.
when you have it tied in part to people you love, that's a really powerful uh, motivating factor. Um, I'm wondering, you mentioned like getting your mind right in that process of physical transformation. um was was that a big part? Like, what was your headspace in the weight loss journey? Was it purely physical, as like, I see this as an issue and I just want to solve it, and or were you was there a kind of like a mental health practice that you embarked on during that journey as well?
Yeah, I love that question because honestly, and that's what I'm going to address when my book is released, is that the one thing I did not realize about weight loss is you are tackling multiple issues at the same time. So my book is going to outline four things. It's going to outline the food part, the exercise part, the village kind of accountability around you part, and the mental part. And all four were separate journeys. And I knew that when it comes together, the end result is weight loss. Quick example, you can exercise every day. I just did 5 miles this morning. I do 5 miles every single day. But if I come
Nice.
home and I do five pancakes, this, you know, so boom, you have that. Then you have okay, this is my plan for the week. And then your friend calls and says, let's go here. And you know that you're on this diet. So there's that. Mental probably plays the biggest role because there are times where you don't feel like it. You've had a rough day. I don't want to go work out, but you need to. You've now missed 4 days in a row. Or, hey, it'd be easier to do this. And again, you need to go work out. So keeping yourself focused was a big part of this. The reason I started in the first place is because I had a health scare. I was on track to becoming pre-diabetic and then diabetic, and the thought of that just really jolted me to the
Hmm.
point where, and I know, we're just kind of connecting, but I am a very calm person by nature. I was hysterical. I'm crying to my mom. I'm calling my dad, like, I don't want to be this person anymore. And just remember even having that conversation with myself, like, if this is bothering you this much, you need to do something about it. And I knew from that day forward, I'll never forget it. July 2019, I said, it is no turning back. And I haven't looked back since. I have not put any of the weight back on that I've lost. Again, I found a routine and different things like that. But we all have in life that aha moment. And I'm a firm believer that when you are truly tired of a circumstance, you will change it. And unfortunately for different people, we all have different wake up calls. That was mine. I've tried to lose weight before. I've thought about it. I've been heavy set since I was 10 years old. This very much was something that has been rooted into my childhood. And I'm 32 now. So we're talking a large range of time. But when that day came that I said, yeah, I'm done with this lifestyle. And for me, it wasn't really just about aesthetic. It's about a quality of life. I wanted to be able to go to the amusement park and get on any roller coaster I wanted. I want to be able to go to the mall and shop at any store that I choose to, or just different things. I didn't want weight to always play a role in how I have to make decisions, where I have to sit on the bus, if I can even get on the bus. Um, it just for me is not my definition of happiness.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so important, and again, for people listening in to like listen to those calls that could signal, all right, this is the rock bottom, this is the wake up call, and to actually listen. Um, and you did, and it speaks to your character, that you really took it to heart and stuck with it. And so I just think it's a good reminder that those kind of calls can come from various places,
Yes.
and to keep your ear out. And I think um, the desire for self improvement and change is a powerful motivator. Um, and 32, if you told me 23, I'd be like, yeah, makes sense. You look great.
Thank you. My students, like I said, I work at a college. My students think that I'm a junior. Like if I meet somebody and like a mom, and they're like, "Well, can I talk to Mr. Harris?" I am Mr. Harris.
I love that. It's awesome. It's
Thank
awesome.
you.
I mean, the steps you've taken towards your health are super obvious, and it really comes through. So that's such a cool journey. Um, let's see what. So let me jump back to a question. A question I usually ask everyone
Mhm.
is just at the highest level, like what does masculinity mean to you, and where do you think you learned where do you think you learned it?
Wow. I would say for me, and I love this question. I'll tell you why. So I actually run a men's group on Wednesdays called Brother Circle. So we talk about masculinity all the time. And my definition of peak masculinity is comfortability. As men, to be able to operate in space where you truly love how you show up in spaces, even if what is already in the room when you arrive looks different, you're okay with that. That to me is masculinity. Really quick, because it breaks my heart even just getting ready to retell you this, but I had a student who, during Brother Circle, we were talking, and he said that my favorite color is green, but in school, people told me that was feminine, so I changed it to blue. And when I tell you that hurt me to hear, it hurt me because, first off, I love the color green too. Um, but just to think that we still have a society where people can't publicly enjoy the things that they enjoy in fear of how treatment is going to come after that. So, going back to your question, masculinity is this is what I love, this is who I am, this is what I want to do, and I'm not changing that for anybody. I'm not sorry that this is, again, what I am, who I am, what I plan to do. That for me is a passion area. That's something I want to continue to work on with people, is how I can help them reach that level of comfort. I want people to be in space where they can say, I love you, man, talking to their friends, talking to whomever, and they don't feel uncomfortable doing so. I want men to be in a space where they can receive compliments and not feel uncomfortable. I want men to, if you enjoy wearing yellow and you look really nice in yellow, put that yellow shirt on and rock it well, do it well. That for me is top masculinity.
And where so I love that definition, and I know exactly what you're talking about, because it's like that kind of releasing tension where you feel comfortable in your own skin and in the space that you're in. And I think for a lot of guys, that just would be a huge health benefit. And so I
Yes.
love the work that you're doing to encourage that. Um, where do you think you learned that? Was it developed? Was it taught? Was it learned from society or lived experiences or family? How did you develop that perspective?
I would say the biggest influence on my life, and he did the best job of this of anybody that I knew, was my grandfather, William Kirksey. He passed away a couple years ago, but he was a person who was unapologetically him. And I was raised in a family. My granddad always used to tell me this. I live by this. He said, any opinion worth having is worth defending. My granddad could be in a room with 100 people, and if he thought that, I don't know, I'll just throw a random team out there, the Dallas Cowboys were the greatest football team of all time, it did not matter what the other 99 felt. He stood on it. And he wore different color suits. He had bright pink shirts, bright yellow shirts. It never mattered. I've never seen him in a space where the area around him changed how he was going to do something. And I just thought that was so cool. Of course, there were times where he got a lot of backlash for either things he might say or do, but I appreciated that he stood on it. Sometimes in society, we almost watch people backtrack a little bit where they say something, and there's nothing wrong with correction. If you're educated, more educated in an area, and you change your mind, so be it. But if you do strongly feel a way about something, own it, especially when it comes to things about your own identity and your own masculinity. So I would say my earliest example of healthy masculinity was my grandfather. In terms of societal influences, one of my favorite R&B singers, Maya, who had more so kind of popular hits in the late 90s, early 2000s, when she does podcasts, she always says, define everything for yourself. That is the definition of success and happiness. And I live by that too. So I don't use happiness for me based on what happiness looks like for you. Success, same thing. Love, fashion, fun, whatever words you want to put there. I make my own definitions. That way I can never be envious of the next person. I can never find myself falling short because we're not on the same comparison track. So that's what I go
I love
for.
that. I love that. I mean, it's almost a definition for authenticity too. It's in your happiness and fulfillment is yours alone,
Yeah.
to define. And it's such a powerful position because I mean it really just your strength is up to you, and isn't like always in flux by someone else's opinion.
Right.
So I think that's an incredibly healthy way to do it. And your grandpa sounds like an amazing character.
Yes.
And role models are so important. Um,
Mhm.
in the last few minutes, I kind of wanted to talk about like future. I love the work that you're doing, and so
Thank
I'll
you.
just float a few things that Under the Hood Talk has done to deepen relationships with other creators. I think our work is super aligned. I would say if you're ever in New York, we have like a studio space with like great cameras and lighting. It'd be so cool to do like an in-person thing. I would
Yeah.
say if like collaborations, we've done some Insta lives. We're working on more like community roundtables thing, kind of group settings, and also building out kind of a like inner concentric ring of creators to have a more regular dialogue. And so I'm sure we could talk forever about a
Oh,
bajillion
yes.
things. And so definitely I would love to keep in
And
touch. So
yes.
nice to meet you. I wish you really the best of luck with your endeavors. You have
Thank
lots of endeavors. I don't know how you find the time,
I
but
don't know either.
it's
Yeah.
amazing work, and we're grateful for carving out our half hour today with us.
Yes, I'm just again grateful, and thank you. I want to say thank you for giving space to people like myself and others. Like I said, everything I said for this episode, I mean in real life. Men do need platforms where we can be heard, be seen, be felt. Um, Thank you for giving us space. Thank you for allowing me to have time with you and your entire team just to share a little bit about my story with the hopes that I can help somebody else who is going to see this in the future.
It's a privilege. It's a privilege.
Yes.
Well, I hope you have an awesome rest of the day, and we
Thank
will
you.
be in touch.
Yes. Take care.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah. So, what do you think it means to be a good man?
I don't think there's a single definition.
Things that make up a good man are just things that make up a good person. Someone who's honest, someone who's decent.
You're also willing to express yourself in a healthy way, and you're in touch with your emotions as well.